making my life large. Being big, being inspired. Here's a stage, I'm up here on it. So tonight I'm going to talk to you about emotional intelligence and creativity. When I say creativity, I want us to think about it in the most broad way that we can. Primarily because creativity is not what my kindergarten teacher taught me. Just learn how to draw and color within the lines, Karla. Very hard for me, I'm left-handed. I want to live a creative and inspired life. And in fact, for the most part, have done that, but now, in this stage of my life, I want to push it more and more and more. And I have discovered that emotional intelligence can support me and others in doing that. So what is this emotional intelligence, and why is it important and useful? Well, Dan Goleman, among others, but Dan has written a wonderful book, and he says, emotional intelligence, the capacity for recognizing our own feelings and those of others, for motivating ourselves, for managing the emotions well in ourselves and in our relationships. So emotional intelligence involves self-knowledge and self-awareness. We can think of emotional intelligence as a skill. And if it's a skill, it can be acquired and it can be developed. Again, emotional intelligence, EI, is a skill that supports the access, understanding, expression, and management of emotions. We also know that EI supports leadership, creativity, and authentic expression in the world. Some of the most proficient and developed leaders and the world movers and shakers have very high levels of emotional intelligence. We can use this to change the world for the better. EI provides a foundation of awareness that then can be applied to action in anyone's life. EI also supports the process of visioning and projecting future possibilities. When we do this, we're more hopeful. When we're more hopeful, we boost the parasympathetic nervous system, for those of you who are more clinically involved and aligned. And when that happens, we have access to more neural circuits. We can learn more. It also affects our physiological system. We get calmer, and we can be energized and more focused, and it supports new learning. Emotional intelligence helps us understand human motivation, our motivation. We get to identify what factors support or inhibit our motivation. And then we can more successfully accomplish tasks and change behaviors. Emotional intelligence enhances the possibility of success in many areas and supports us going beyond who and what we are. It also supports us in going beyond who and what other people say we are. Because I don't know about you, but my growing up experience, people were regularly telling me who I was, what I could feel, what I couldn't feel, to the point where I couldn't quite figure out what was going on. As I developed my own emotional intelligence, I could claim that, and I could easily go beyond who and what I am. Now, we all know that our emotions are very powerful things. Sometimes even more powerful than our rational thoughts. Emotional intelligence helps us manage them so that they're not overwhelming us. We can use emotional intelligence to imagine a future that is supportive, that is inspired, that is creative, and that is dynamic. here to support all of us living a creative life. So how does emotional intelligence support creativity? Certainly, we use our creative imagination to vision, to manifest ideas, and to change paradigms. Our creativity helps us think outside the box that Keith was talking about, pushing the envelopes, creating change. Our emotions are closely tied to our creative processes. Emotional intelligence, understanding and managing our emotions, can function to enhance those processes and support actions that bring our creative projects into reality. Emotional intelligence also supports us in taking risks. We can manage those emotions that shut us down, move them out of the way, and still take the action. So here's an example of one process for living a dynamic creative life. Certainly have emotional intelligence as the foundation for all action. And then we are more readily able to practice what I refer to as free visioning. And free visioning is create a vision of a future or a life that you might like without the limitations. So just act like, okay, I have the magic wand, we have all won the lotto. Money's not an object. Time is not an object. People and relationships are not an issue or a problem. Now I want you to take a moment and think of a future that you would like to have. Think of a vision, create a vision. It's like when you were little and you just could think about anything. Make that a practice for yourself. Once you begin to create a vision for a project or your career or your life, take a moment every single day and feed that vision. Feed it with intention. See it, feel it, own it, as if it's already happened. Remember that intentions are free-flowing energy. They come from the heart. They come from our passions. They can clearly support our actions. Then you can identify specific actions that support that project, your life, or your career. So now we're going from the very big to the supportive, to the specific. Journal, record a daily experience or an idea that's connected or tied to that vision. Then begin to identify the feelings that come up around that vision. Some of those will be positive, some of those will be negative. Just notice that. Use the positive energy that you generate to reduce the negative thoughts and feelings that arise. Again, emotional intelligence is helping us to manage those feelings. You can also create attainable goals that support that vision. Every time you achieve a goal, let somebody know. Express gratitude daily. You'd be surprised what opens up when you walk through the world being grateful for the rain, being grateful for the opportunity to sit in this room and be charged up by all sorts of new ideas. Once you do some of this, watch what happens. Certainly, when we're working and living our lives like this, we have to turn obstacles, they all come up, into opportunities. One of the most effective tools for that is reframing. Change your perspective. Change how you look at it. Open up to the spaces where there is a possibility for something positive or something that's more opening to happen. You can also use mapping to generate new possibilities, make new connections, and move through those obstacles. But just having the attitude of turning obstacles to opportunities has great power. And it's not Pollyanna. Because what we think, we create. And certainly, we're in a room. People thought about chairs, they created chairs. So really using the power of perspective. Actions that support creativity, meditation. Now when I say meditation, I don't necessarily only mean sitting and reciting Om, which is very good. Emptying your mind, that's also very good. But there are meditations you can do that will feed your vision of who you are, who you want to be, how you want the world to be. Identify any feeling that comes up, identify the levels of those feelings, use your emotional intelligence and your motivation to support you. Emotional intelligence supports riding the waves of passion to motivate us towards action. Certainly you can use emotional intelligence to confront or conquer fear, often that comes up, and the extreme internal critic. Show of hands, how many people have a very harsh internal critic in here? The naysayer. I say, oh, I want to take a trip around the world. No, you can't. Send that critic on vacation. Go, particularly if you're brainstorming a project, send them away. Put them away. Let them go have fun if they can. So that you can have the opening to ride the wave and the energy of passion. Try some affirmations to silence the fears. Emotional intelligence helps us distinguish between the energy of good feedback and helpful critical assessment and the oppressive internal critic who too frequently shuts us down. To support all this activity, build like-minded networks. Surround yourselves with like-minded creative people. If you see some others who think outside the box, get to know them. Limit your contact with naysayers. They're not, can't be around right now. Some people create Facebook pages for like-minded activities. Get a close group of friends with whom you can share your projects and your ideas, and they can share yours, and they can celebrate your successes. Some examples of these kinds of communities on the web: the Adventures in Manifesting group, the Art of Nonconformity, Chris Jobot, if you don't know about him, Google him. He lives outside the box, and there are lots of others. Ask for help. Share your successes with the community. In conclusion, emotional intelligence leads to self-awareness. Self-awareness leads to greater consciousness and authentic, intentional action. Authentic action fosters change. And that intentionally, emotionally grounded action changes the world. I challenge all of you. Be your vision and be your dream. Thank you. Public speaking faux pas. You clap and I go to walk away. I'm so conscious of the time. Thank you for your
Then I think we should clap again.
Yes.
For Rutgers.